about these points. And dito ako magsisimula muna, just so we remember that it's where we start. Solid principles of OOP, object-oriented programming, testability as a measure of good design, and testing in isolation. So I'll explain later what those are. Let's start with Sige, well, let's proceed. Let's start with with solid So a lot of you have already heard of this term before. So, solid principles it was coined by Bob Martin more than a decade ago, maybe more than kailan ba sinulat yung article in 2004 or something like that. So five points that indicate a good object-oriented program. Single responsibility principle. So by single responsibility, it means that your object or your component is responsible for one and only one thing. Ang concern niya dapat is madedefine mo as a single object. Even if you have, a single objective, rather. Even if you have a ton of other classes in that place, they should all be concerned with the relevant thing. So if it's UI, that place should be mostly concerned about UI lang. If it's about data access, that class, that object, that component, whatever, should only be concerned with data access lang. And that's the main point of the single responsibility principle. And this will be a recurring theme, especially with dependency injection, because dependency injection is actually one way to ensure ito the SRP. SRP is followed. Alright. The other stuff are medyo slightly related, except of course D at the end. It's the whole point of containers, diba? Open close principle, it's open for extension, closed for modification. What it means is that there's an underlying principle there where the components do not know the implementation of the other components that it handles. So later, discuss rin natin yung loose coupling, what that means. It's covered under that open close principle. You can remove the last block, yung black, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, hindi ko na ginagamit yung laptop ko. Alright. List of substitution principle is a simple way of saying that a subtype of one class is substitutable to another, is substitutable to its so basta nasa substitute mo yung subclass dun sa superclass niya. If you're using what they call this inheritance, that's what it applies to. Liskov is the name of a woman named Barbara Liskov that coined this law. So yeah, girls girls rule. Siya lang pangalan kaisa-isang principles, solid principles with a name on it. It's the name of a girl. It's the name of a woman. So yeah. All right. Interface segregation principle. So it's better. This is this is the principle that states that it's better to have multiple interfaces put together rather than having them inherited from each other. So if you've heard the term composition over inheritance, but it's because of the interface segregation principle. And dependency injection is actually a way of composition. It's a way to compose, to put in several disparate functionalities into one place without having to inherit from those objects or without having to know the implementations of those objects, right? And then finally, dependency inversion principle, which is what Mickey basically explained in his whole talk. The whole point of IOC containers is that you don't want any dependencies, any concrete dependencies or any concrete implementations to permeate to your classes, and that's important later on, so that we can better isolate our components, make it more flexible, and therefore mas madali siyang i-modify, which is yung palaging problem natin with legacy systems na habang tumatagal, pahirap ng pahirap, i-modify without breaking other things. Alright. So next point I want to raise is testability as a measure of good design. So there had been debates about is testability an indication of good design, or put simply, kapag marami akong unit test, that means maganda yung application, maganda yung design ng application ko. So at least from my experience, well-designed code is often testable. When the code is testable, when the code is well-designed, madali siyang sulatan ng automated unit tests. That's one thing that's for sure. Testability is indicative of loose coupling, and by loose coupling, what we mean is components have little or no knowledge of the implementation details of other components. Yeah. So if I have an application that takes data from some sort of database, dapat ba alam ko kung Oracle or SQL Server yung database? Dapat ba alam ko kung MongoDB pala siya or SQLite pala siya na nasa mobile phone? Diba? Ideally, we don't need to know that. We just need to know that, hey, we're taking data from somewhere, diba? And our application should not be dependent on the fact na SQLite yan, or it should not be dependent on the fact na MongoDB yan. If it starts being dependent on the fact that it's a SQL Server, it's a SQL Server implementation, that is a code smell. That is a problem. This is one of the reasons why, even back in the day, stored procedures were discouraged. Stored procedures put business logic in the data store, and away from your applications, away from tests. If SQL Server DBAs hear me, they will rise up in protest and say that that's the right place to for the logic to be. Ganyan. Kasi dapat data integrity is number one. Yeah, but really depends on the focus of your product, I think. Yun yung point na. Right. Anyway, this lack of knowledge means implementation can easily be replaced. So it should not matter if you're using SQL Server, tapos later on nagpalit ka, naging Azure SQL, because you're migrating your application to the cloud, diba? Or I'm using Azure now, and I'm using Azure SQL, and then my boss na bulungan na, mas maganda yung Amazon. Yan, di pa tayo RDS, yan. Amazon or Amazon Aurora. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. What if your application is loosely coupled, you could implement a different class accessing RDS, accessing Aurora, but you shouldn't have to touch the rest of your application. That's the whole point of loose code. Alright. Testability again, and then again, not all testable code indicates good design. So one of the things that became contentious in the past was yung mga nagmamalaki masyado na hey, we have 100% test coverage. 100% unit test. Ibig sabihin our design is good. Pero that's not necessarily true kasi there's a lot more to application design than testability. There's good separation of domain boundaries. Okay, kaya there's yung if your application actually mirrors the actual business, the business model appropriately, there's a lot more criteria that is indicative of good code in your application. So hindi ibig sabihin na kompleto yung fully tested yung yung code mo. That doesn't mean that your design is perfect. It might be a code smell. It might be indicative na you're spending too much time coding tests. Or you're spending too much time maintaining tests. So there's a balance that you have to take for that, diba? Yeah. All right. But again, testability will be something that is a quality that more or less points towards the fact na, maganda yung design ng application ko, maganda yung architecture ng application ko. Now, let's further expound on that. And we expound on that by discussing testing and isolation. Or this is one of the things that is a challenge for most, especially the first timers for test-driven development, or people who have legacy systems that they need to put automated tests for the first time. Ito palaging challenge nila, isolation. Isolating the parts of your system to be able to test it properly. Alright, so think about this. If I have an application that is composed of a web front end and some program logic, usually this is called business logic or something, and a database back end, it's all fine and dandy as long as the interconnections work. But in reality, things can go wrong. If you deploy super gray pala nung para whitish na yung color nawala na yung text. Tawag dito. So if your web application is something that is deployed to the cloud, you might lose internet connectivity, and kung doon ka nagte-test or yun yung ino-automate mo yung test mo, you lose that ability, and then your program logic is all that you have, or you can test. Or let's say nag-down yung machine ng web server mo. All you can do is play with your business logic. So how do I check that, diba? O di kaya your database shuts down, your database gets corrupted. The backup that you're restoring goes haywire, and things go wrong. If this is a live system, there will be some blame game. And yeah, if there's a bug, diba, sometimes people will blame bad data. Some people will say that, hey, your JavaScript sucks. Some people will say that your back-end guys don't have haven't been going home, they don't have enough sleep, so nandun lahat ng mga ano nila. So there's a difficulty in figuring out bugs, especially if you have tightly coupled and kumbaga, if these things are not isolated from each other. All right. So how does dependency injection help here? Diba? Dependency injection helps because so dependency injection helps via the use of interfaces, and in automated unit test, the use of mocks. So imagine this illustration of this as a dependency graph. Parang this is a list of classes that call each other. Diba? If I have 6 places or 6 components that call each other, and then I have a bug, how do I locate that bug and confidently say that, hey, it's not in this part, it's not in that part, it's not in that part? What would help you is dependency injection, interfaces, and mocks. So again, interfaces are code contracts. It doesn't, I think na-explain kanina ni Miggy, it doesn't have implementations of your code. Ang meron lang siya yung method signature. Diba? Yung same na method name, same na parameters, and same na return type. That's all that your interface defines. It cannot be instantiated. You cannot say var instance is equals to new I interface. Hindi mo pwede siyang gamitin as a new object. It's not an object. It doesn't have an implementation at all. Diba? And if you have a class that says that it implements an interface of something, it guarantees that the class has that behavior. That means that your code will not compile if you have an interface of something and then you don't implement the methods na naka-define sa interface na yan. So what it does is it ensures that your concrete class has this method. In C# and in Java, it's possible to combine interfaces in one class. Pwede siyang multiple. Pwede ka magpasok ng multiple na interfaces sa isang class to compose together the methods that will build that class up. Right. So this is basic OOP. Everybody should actually know this already. All right. Mocking naman. All right. It's real world behavior substituted during runtime. Yeah, medyo blast from the past yung picture. Diba? Hindi siya yun yung mocking na. Ano movie yan? Mockingjay. This is the 3rd movie dun sa Hunger Games. Anyway, alright. So putting them together. So basically what mocking does is during runtime, pwede kong palitan yung ginagawa ng isang method. I could change the implementation of one method. I could dictate, hey, this method will return this value. This method will return that value. And then that makes it easy for me to determine, to make sure that my inputs for my method are correct. And then, i-check ko yung behavior niya based on those inputs. Why is it important? Why is it important to change the behavior during runtime? The problem with databases is that you're never sure what it contains. Okay? So, if I am calling a repository class, and I am calling an actual database, Malay ko ba if somebody already dropped my table? Diba? I do not know if somebody already changed my data. So I do not know what will return, and I do not know what the final result of my method would be if I am manipulating that data. Diba? With mocking, I could tell it na, okay, pretend that you are calling the database, but make sure that you return this specific data to me. Papalitan niya yung binabalik na data. And in doing that, it ensures na every single time, the same data comes back to you. Yeah. This is particularly, so think about it, meron tayo minsan data na, let's say if I call a method, or I call a method, but the method calls a stored proc that contains, ano sa SQL Server yung time right now? No? Date now? Date now? Something. Get date, di ba? Get date. Di ba? Paano mo test yun? Every time, hinahabol mo yung date nung ano, di ba? Nung server, what it will return. So, instead of doing that, you change that implementation para it returns a specific date that you're expecting it to. And then, based on that date, kung may calculation kang ginawa based on that date, same yung result na ano mo. And that indicates that, hey, this piece of code is working. If the result is different, isabihin, something went wrong. And that's where your bug is. Okay. It will be easier later when you see the code. I promise. Okay. So, putting them together, the real-world system accesses concrete implementations, and by concrete implementations, it accesses a real SQL server, or it accesses a real NoSQL database, or it accesses a real Azure SQL or Amazon Aurora database, and you get the you get the real deal, but in your tests, they never access any of those. It's only just the mocks that dictate what data you will see. Right? This is all abstract. This is all nosebleed, di ba? Demo tayo. Demo tayo ng something na more concrete. So, okay, let's see where my let's open Visual Studio. Alright, this is not my machine, this is Miggy's machine. Kasi hindi namin ano. So I'm opening this for the first time. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. Okay, wait. Ano ba ito? Naka-extend ano? Duplicate na lang natin para. Okay. Maliit yung ano. Naalala niyo pa yung ano, no? Windows Forms. Windows Forms. When we were all misinformed and everything, di ba? Tapos ano, I actually have here an access database. So, college project eh. Yeah. Obviously, may kinopyahan lang ako nung ano. May kinopyahan lang ako nung code. Yeah, it's supposed to be a payroll thing, but I made it simpler na lang kasi kulang sa time. I'm just getting the first name and the last name in this particular table. So, yep, yung ano na yan, yung values na yan. And then back over here, so double click. Oh, wow. Ang liit para.
Anong mali?
Zoom na lang.
Teka lang. Ano yun natin?
Di ba pumatang ko?
Palaking humigil.
Oo. You know that as I got older, nilalakihan ko ng Visual Studio ko. So, nowadays, font 16 na yung gamit ko. Tapos ang excuse ko is, kasi nagpe-present ako eh. Diba? Yan, excuse ko lang yun. Actually, hindi ko na talaga makita yung code. Alright, medyo kita na ba? Mas kita na kahit pa paano. Tapos Windows Zoom pa tayo ulit ng Alright. So, ito yung typical na code na nung araw.
Okay lang, kita mo.
Kung bata-bata ka pa, tapos wala ka pang alam sa kung paano mag-design ng So, yung button click mo, nandun lahat. Nandun lahat ng logic nung pag get nung yung select statement nung yung select statement nung code natin and everything. Alright, tapos I just get the result of this query. I'll put it in a string and then I output that somehow. And ang nilalabas lang niya pag click ko niyan ganyan is populate, ganun lang. So this is the same this is just the same stuff that this is just the same stuff that's in that access database. Access talaga eh. Hindi man lang SQL Express access talaga. Alright. So how do we make this how do we make this sane, diba? We all go back to the solid principles. Diba? We all go back to object-oriented programming. We try to define this as objects instead of just primitive strings and everything. So let's find a way to represent this represent this data, this program in a more sane way. Diba? And ganito yung itsura ng example natin kasi maraming legacy applications actually. Diba? Very old applications na na-encounter nyo na sa work and everything. So, akala makatulong. Alright. So I'm using Visual Studio 2017 just so you know. Sige, simulan natin isip tayo. Ano yung mga kailangan nating hiwain dito? What's the concern of this class? Diba? It's a form. So what's the concern of a form? Diba? How do you call it? UI? Diba? It's your front end. Diba? So what does not belong in the front end? The back end. Siyempre, the back end. Alright. And what is our back end? Traditionally, ang back end natin is data access. Diba? So, hihiwain ko to. Gagawa ako ng bagong project. Like some kind of class library lang. Kulang ba yung SDG? Hindi, MSS lang naman gagamitin natin sa parang. Alright, class library lang na ID na .NET standard, .NET framework lang. O sige, binatan employee domain, ganyan. Yan, para wow, ay palutin yung pangalan, diba? Diba? Tapos, palitan natin yung pangalan ni class 1. Sige, ano muna natin i-define? We have code that had names, diba, of employees. So let's say an employee, simple yan lang natin. It's just a person with a first name and a last name. So alam niyo ba itong ginagawa ko? Yung ating mga shortcuts sa so prop, tab, string, last name, employee. Okay. Yeah. Tapos palitan natin yung class. Rename natin na employee. Alright. And then, gawa natin ng, sige, normally you might have separate class libraries for data access and the business logic and the domain objects, etc., etc. I'll put them all in the same class, but more complex architectures will have them separate, just to be clear. Just for the purpose of this demo, then konti lang naman yung classes natin, I'll put them in the same place. So I'll add here another class. I'll be calling it repository or sige, employee repository, for example. Let's make it let's make it employee repository public. Okay, tapos what method do you think this will have?
Group.
Yeah, yung CRUD mo, di ba? But ang ginagawa lang natin ngayon, we're just reading, di ba? We're just reading, so let's just get all employees, something like that. Let's say public. Alright, enumerable. Why am I using enumerable? It's the most basic. It's the most basic object that represents a collection of things, and it's a collection of employees. Get employees na. So, wala pa siyang ginagawa. Get all employees. Alright. I guess we could start here. Let's go back to our, code. So I have names here. I have the text box. Alright. I cleared the text box so that clearing the text box, may iwan yan dyan, di ba? Ang mawawala is, sabihin natin, let's transfer that here. Pero meron pa tayong mga kailangang ayusin dito para siya right? Dahil meron tayong squiggly lines, control dot. Yun. So marami ng refactoring tools sa Visual Studio 2017. So huwag kayong mahiya, download yung community. Download yung community, it's free. Alright, and then somewhere here we have to say repository that get all employees, and ilalagay natin siya sa isang list employees, parang ganyan, because yan. So So wala tayong repository object dito. Paano tayo magkakaroon ng repository object? Let's say here na we have a private repository. Problem is, okay, ito cannot find yan, new file yan, kasi wala pa tayong reference to our project. Diba? So let's click on add reference. Yan, employee domain. Doon siya. Once you add that reference, you control that here. Oops. Yan pa.
Employee repository.
Ano yan?
Employee repository.
Employee repository pala. So, nakalimutan ko. Ang buong pangalan niya. Control that. Yan. Using employee domain. You have your object. And somewhere out here, I have to declare repository is equals to new employee repository. Okay. Itong string na to, this is the connection string. Normally, dapat nasa applet configured or somewhere else. For the purpose of this demo, I'll just put it in class level definition here. What else? Okay, enumerable employee dapat. So let's replace this. Let's replace this names that add thing. The names should be a new list of employee, diba? And then dito naman, mag-names that add tayo na palitan natin yung code. So I'm not sure if you're following yung kung paano siya pinukuha, pero names that add new person, new employee, employee, and then nagawa ko ng shortcut na either first name. Sobra pala yung query ko, walang values yung middle name dun sa ano. This is reader last name. This will complain because it's an unfortunately it's a weekly type object. So that's why these OLEDB readers aren't really that nice. Okay. So yeah. So this adds a new employee object to the list, and then that list is returned. Okay. And that list is returned somewhere here. So we have a list of employees somewhere. Okay, what happens here? Employers will get all employees, hindi pala. Get employees pala. Get employees lang. Okay, tapos yung list of employees na yan. Array. Ang problema, string.join doesn't work with non-strings. It's expecting a string out of each value. So we have to change this altogether. Yung string.join naman is concat lang. Huwag tayong gumamit ng concat. Let's use a string builder.
Okay.
Kalimutan niyo na yung mga 101 niyo.
Best practices.
Best na yung .NET 101. Yeah. 10 line It's just append line, and then
The two values.
oh, okay. Ano pala? How do we do that for each time? For each
List of employees.
for each var employee in list of employees. Alright, sb.append line, and then let's nicely let's format it that same way, and also ano tayo? Modern C#. Okay. Employee that last name, comma, employee that first name. Alright. So, and then the final thing here will be what? sb dot do string, right? So dito pa lang, ano? Laki na ng difference ng code natin. Let's try to run it. Unfortunately, at this point, dahil wala pa tayo, we don't have any unit tests. Only way to see if it's still running is to run it. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Sige. All right. Still, I don't really think that that this is enough for my separation of concerns or my single responsibility. I want to get this whole straight out from here. So let's just say na I move this elsewhere. I'm going to make a new class, new item, and then employee, ano ba? BL. Kunwari business logic. Employee BL. Okay. Konti na lang, employee BS. Alright. Okay, so we have an employee BL, and I want all that getting with that string. So let's say display employees. I want it all here instead of somewhere else, instead of the UI. So I will instead Control X, employee BL, and then return sb.toString dito. Okay. Pero kailangan ko nung repository. So I probably need this private employee repository. And then somehow I need to put that in my class. So I'll put here's employee repository muna. And repository. Tapos yeah, that should do it. And then dun sa kailangan ko ng PL class dito. So lalagay ko dito private employee BL, employee BL. Tapos sabihin natin dito is employee BL is equals to new employee BL Pero kailangan ko na repository. So, papasok ko to repository na to. Diyan, diba? Alright, and then here, I will say employee bl.display employees. Wow. Look at that. Look at that compared to the line kanina na nandiyan lahat ng logic. Diba? So, let's try to run this just to make sure that it's still working. Yeah. Wala akong, wala magic yan. Yan talaga yan. That was it. Okay. So, more or less, we have separated away the concerns in other classes. Diba? But I want to be able to make sure that my employee BL, for example, gusto kong gawa ng test. Want to make sure that this thing works. It's formatting the names. It's formatting the names, and then it's displaying it correctly. Whatever the names should be. Kasi right now I only have a very small sample of 2 people. Diba? I want 3 name. I want to put a 3rd name or 4th name there. I'm not sure if it will work, or I'm not sure if it works properly. So I want to put in a unit test there. Pero may problema. Ano yung problema natin? So kumukuha siya ng employee repository. Diba? And if you go to my employee repository, ano meron yung employee repository ko? It actually has a connection string, and it actually connects to an actual database. Diba? So right now, as clean as it looks, compared, at least compared to what it was kanina, diba? With all those data access in the button click, diba? As clean as this already looks, it's still tightly coupled to each other. Your business, your BL class depends on your repository, and your repository is actually calling a solid database. Alright. Anong gagawin? Anong kailangan natin gawin ngayon? Dito ngayon papasok si interfaces muna natin. And si container, si containers natin. So, to be able to do that, buti na lang, madali na lang ang ngayon. You have internet access naman. Yeah, alright. Just manage the NuGet packages. Let's browse. And let's look for Unity here. Alright. Alas 9 na pala, please excuse the length it has gone so far. I'm just making sure that na ma-illustrate natin. Alright, so let's click install. Let's click OK. Alright, I accept. Okay. So this installs the Unity library into your project. This downloads all the references that you need for this project. Alright, so we started with that, and then there's a bunch of things that we need to do. So what do we need to do? There are just 2 methods that we made here. Get employees for your employee repository, and display employees here. So what we will do is, alright, for employee repository, let's say that this actually implements employee repository so in .NET, unfortunately, we do have that that naming warp, yung convention na all interfaces start with the letter with a capital I. Yeah. So to make it easier, control dito generate interface in a new file. So it will make that file, and then I'll just copy this signature and head over here, public interface over there. Okay, control dot collect, system dot collection. Yan. So meron akong interface ngayon nung employee repository. I'll be doing the same, just in the interest of time. I'll be doing the same here. Control that. And this time, the signature that I'm going to have to copy is employee. So employees. Okay. And then dito sa ano natin, dito sa code natin, there's a change that I'm going to make here, which is, so if you were wondering what that was, it said CTOR. Employee repository. Buti na lang marami shortcuts yan. Si Visual Studio. Tapos ito, instead of saying new, I'll get these. I'll get these. Oops. Story and employee. Okay. Anong problema dito? Cannot implicitly convert because this should do yung variables natin doon sa taas, right? Make sure that this constructor still calls the other constructor, the initialized component, and make sure that this is available. Magrereklamo si Visual Studio, and then now that we have those as parameters, we'll go back to our program kasi nandito yung ating new form 1. What do we do now to define our interfaces, diba? So, tama ba? Unity container. Oops. Alright. New Unity container. Tapos, container dot, ano yung method? Register. Register type o instance.
There's a singleton is
okay. So, register type para singleton.
instance
Either or. Sige. Tapos milit muna ako sa polycopon.
May nag-comment online, new is glue.
Yeah, new is glue. What?
While you were coding.
Repository. Employee. Repository. Diba? Teka. Right. And then container dot register type employee BL employee BL. Okay. And then anong gagawin natin dito sa instead of calling new here, para gamitin niya yung registered types ni Unity, we call container dot resolve. And it will immediately look for all the constructors of Form 1 and the ones that use these types. Iyaano niya yan, i-feed niya yung mga concretions for those types. You don't need to resolve employee BL kasi di ba meron siyang dependency meron siyang parameter for repository. It will automatically look for that as well. As long as it's in your definitions. Alright. Does this run? Does this run? Diba? Weird lang. Alright. Does this run? Still runs. Okay. Pero what's the point of doing all this? It feels pointless at this point. Right now, kasi parang, okay, it's just another way of instantiating things, diba? Same output, diba? The point here is this. If you are going to attack an old legacy system and you want to put your unit tests in, gawa tayo na, may MS test ka dito. Wala. N-unit yan. X-unit wala.
Wala rin. Kung ano nasa default.
Great! Sige, subukan na lang natin itong unit test project na to. Or N-unit to. N-unit pa rin. Alright. Ipaalala mo na lang sa akin yung mga attributes. Test method, unit test, test class, okay. And then MS test to. That's MS test. But, weird lang yung name ng template. So let's just change this to employee tests na din. Doesn't matter what the real name is. Alright. Ano ang gusto kong i-test na class? Ang gusto kong i-test na class is si display employees. I want to make sure that whatever comes out of my repository, ganito pa rin yung output niya. Ito pa rin yung output niya and without changing. So, ayan, dahil OC ako, employee tests. Let's add references. Let's add a reference to that employee domain project. And then let's go and test the correct output for your let's rename this as employee BL display message displays correct output. Labo, no? Ayan, you would be surprised at how long unit test names come out sometimes in tests. Alright. Kailangan ko na employee BL na class, di ba? So for employee BL is equals new employee BL class, that's employee domain there. Pero in reality, kailangan ko ng repository. If I use the actual repository class that we have, that actual repository class is connecting to MS Access. We don't want that, diba? So, what do? I'm going to mock it out. Right. Spanish, new get ulit tayo. Hanapin natin si mock. Si mock. MOQ. Alright, let's install that. Naalala ko nung junior dev ako, inis ako kapag yun. If you need to add a reference, tapos you have to search this library of files na updated dun sa library repository ng company nyo. Tapos wala nga naman tapos. Tapos mali pala yung pagkaka-add mo nung ano, mali pala yung pagkaka-configure. Mabagal ang internet. Ito lang problema na. Bilisan mo na, may naantok na kami. Please. Ayun! Right, mo. I accept. Okay. Yan. Alright, naka-reference na siya. So, we'll go back to our test and var repository is equals to mock.mock I employee repository. Alright, and then, oops, anong problema? Sorry. New? Tama? Alright. New mock.mock. Yan. And here in our employee BL, what we supply is the just so it's clear, I'll name this mock repository. And here, what I'll supply is mock repository dot object. Method ba to? Tama ba? Okay, there's something wrong with what I'm doing.
Di ba may returns?
Hindi pa. Wait lang.
Si employee BL.
Employee BL ba?
Hindi pa ata na-change to interface.
Go to definition. Tada! Ito ang ating mali.
Galing. Ha.
Ito ang ating mali. Bago natin i-run yung test, balik tayo doon sa employee list. Para lang mapakita natin na gumagana pa rin siya. Ayan. Alright. Balik tayo doon sa test. Kasi gusto ko talaga mag-add ng unit test. Diba? Right. Doon sa test natin. So, ayan. And then, ang ita-test natin is si employee BL display employees. Sabihin natin ito si result string. Okay. Anong i-return ng display employees? We actually define what it returns. So, let's go to mock repository and say that setup. Let's say mock repository.setup. Diba? And this is a lambda expression. So let's say r dot get employees. Okay. So what are you doing with the setup? We're telling it na when I call r dot get employees, it returns p new list of person. Employee. Na-obvious tuloy yung mga object names na ginamit ko nung practice ko. Yan. Collections. Pasensya na, matagal to yung iba kailangan. Okay. Alright. Magdagdag tayo ng new persons dito. Sorry. Okay. New person. Sige, first employee. Sorry about that again. First name. Sige, gamitin ka na sa akin. Okay. Next, ay, si Ralph. Lagay natin si Ralph. Alright, sino pa nilagay natin? Si ano? Mga bata. Pamaya. Alright. So, what does this automatic is buggy?
Yeah.
Alright. What is wrong here?
Close.
I enumerable because it is not.
Kasi may collection na naman.
Okay. Dalawa. Hindi pwede eh. It should be ano eh.
enumerable tas that to enumerable. Ay, as enumerable.
Oo, tama. Sige, i-list ko na lang to. And then the
As enumerable.
Wala. Ano ito, Ari? Ayaw. So, anong mali natin? Maybe I have to,
By subject.
I list na lang tayo. There's a employee repository, doon natin ito I list. It shouldn't matter doon sa ibang Asa na tayo? Right, what's happening? MP has a default capacity. Wait, is it because of this? Kulang ng parentheses, and then that, and then ayaw. Bakit ayaw? Kasi inaantok na ako. Yeah. Or mali itong yun lang pala eh. Alright. So, result string is display employees. So, what is the expected string? Expected string would be something like this. Limjap, comma, Jon, /r/n. Good. Here is comma, /r/n. If you're asking about the /r/n, that's because we are doing an append line. And an append line in Windows is carriage return and line feed. Habang sa Linux, it's different. Alright, and then assert is true. Are equal pala. I am violating a cardinal rule of TDD, which is to fail first. And pero for the interest of time, we're doing this happy path. Happy path. That's the best way to say it. So when we now have a unit test that it emits a totally different result from what you will get from the DB, but it should behave accordingly. So if I view my test explorer, asan na si test explorer? Nawawala. Dito na lang, sa test na lang. Run all tests. Isa lang naman yung test natin. Alright, run test started. The text explorer appeared. And it failed. Why did it fail? Test failed because Assert fail. Expected, John.
Hindi niya pinasa. Spelling.
Good. Res.
Yung kay Tomoya nauna yung ano.
Balik.
Galing no! Ang galing no!
Tomoya.
Fail first, di ba? So hindi ko pala binayolate yung fail first. Alright! Alright, so if we run it again.
Check.
Ta-da!
Yay!
Here. So, okay. Yeah, that's the end of the demo. Ayoko na. Alright, so what did we illustrate here? We illustrated that from a rather primitive way, sort of primitive way of we introduced better separation of concerns, separating the objects na different yung nila, different yung responsibilities nila, and then we introduced dependency injection so that we could introduce unit testing at the end, and this ensures that my employee BL method is actually kahit anong repository ang ikabit ko dyan, as long as I have the correct data set, it will display the correct output in the UI. So that UI is still doing the same thing, that very simple method that it's doing, but at least now my separate objects are there's a measure of testability for them. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Uwi na. Sa online natin, wala na question.
Question. Yes, on responsibility naman ng developer na tama yung test. Since yun yung nangyari kanina. How would you know if yung test yung mali or yung code mali? Kasi fail yung test.
Ano na yun? I think there's a shared responsibility between your QA, your product owner or system analyst, and you to determine ano ba talaga yung tamang output. Ano ba yung specification niyo? Kasi that's what would dictate kung
Bakit may conflict
kung
with QA na?
Behavior.
Nag-aaway kang QA.
Kapag nag-aaway na kayo ng QA,
Live stream mo.
Sino yan?
Live stream pala.
Seriously, ako in my experience before, nagkaroon ako ng QA na ang feeling ko gumagawa na ng sarili niya ng spec. Alam mo yun? Parang, ano yung hinihingi mo? yung gano'n. So it has to be something that makes sense in terms of your specification. It has to be something that makes sense in terms of the business value of your application. Hindi pwedeng basta lang gusto ko. Diba? So one of the things that is a good thing to ask for is a set of acceptance tests early on, even before it's coded. I disagree with some policies ng mga companies na minsan yung testers parang ginagawa nilang alas yung acceptance test, yung mga test cases nila. Dapat nga yung test cases yung pakita nila doon sa dev na sabihin nila na ito yung tamang behavior Kasi kung yun yung definition ng tamang behavior, the dev has all the right to know that that's the correct behavior. And they have all the right to be able to test it automatically para walang bug. Ngayon, kung nagbigay sila ng set of test behavior, may bug pa rin, that bug has to be added to that list. Yung correct output yung bug na yun. It's not brownie points for QA na maka-score against the kalokohan yun. QA and dev have to work together, not against each other. Yeah. Okay. Napaka-loaded ng question na yun, ha? Hugot na hugot eh. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yung anak QA for 2 years sa PS Bank. And then 3 months ago, napunta siya sa dev. Welcome siya nga siya ng developers. Pero nagpa-practice pa sila ng manual testing.
Yeah.
At saka yung Selenium. Anong rason bakit mini-maintain nila yung manual testing pa? Bakit hindi automated na lahat?
Minsan mahirap naman talaga i-automate eh. I think that's the only reason why manual test should can survive. Pero kung may paraan na i-automate lahat, bakit hindi? Di ba? I mean, ang trend ngayon, even QA nag-aaral na ng some automated test. Pero syempre, mahalaga pa rin yung skill yung paggawa ng test cases. Mahalaga yung skill pa rin yung yung writing good regression tests. Yeah, it's still valuable. Yeah, but if it's automatable, by all means, it would give value to the company kasi mas mabilis eh.
Para naka-waterfall pa sila, bilis na agile na dito.
Yeah. Sa agile, automated test is mandatory. Ano siya? Tawag yun, parang you cannot really call yourself bona fide agile kung wala kang automated test.
Yung first line of quality.
And then kung gusto mo maging CI/CD,
mag-DevOps.
Di ba ano nila is continuous deployment. Imposible mag-continuous deployment na wala kang automated test. Dapat nga 90% automated ka na, no? 100%.
Would it help ba pag galing ka ng QA tapos maging dev ka?
Yeah, I think so. I think that would help. Actually, may certain skills talaga na magkaiba between devs and QA and sometimes mas obvious na path para sa QA na mag-project manager or mag-product owner. Diba? Sa Agile, yung product owner. Yung sa design. Depende talaga sa set of skills ng tao. Diba? Meron tao na kahit anong pilit mo, hindi rin natututo mag-code. Meron tao naman na code talaga yung gusto nilang gawin. So, I don't know. Saan ba yung kasama ko kanina? Meron ako mga kilalang QA eh. Meron mga sideline eh, kasi ino-automate lang nila yung mga sideline nila. Every day, they just run their script eh. Tapos, okay na. Tapos, tatakbo yung script. Uy, may isang bug. Chef! Bug report. Tapos kapag may bagong functionality, ayun, type na naman siya ng automated text. Diba? Tapos report niya 8 hours. Mami ni may mga sino nga na dyan? Nagmo-moonlight as QA. Ayun. May questions pa?
Question. With regards to IOC container, kasi possibility hindi siya nag-generate ng file to bootstrap yung pag-register, unlike Ninject. So, based on your experience, what would you recommend sa mga first-timers na gusto mag-implement ng IOC? Kasi sa mga friends ko, may isa-isa silang mga preference.
May mga preference. May isa pa na library na na you don't even have to write the It's just it's just a convention na whatever the interface name is, yung concretion niya is the other one, and that's what it looks for. It has advantages and disadvantages if you want to customize yung kasi there's more than just one behavior. I mean, it's possible to have to have a different type registered to that same interface in a different part of the application. So that's only doable kung tinatype yung yung hindi auto-generated. So, yun nga, may advantages and disadvantages. I guess for beginners, mas maganda yung auto-generated siya. But yeah, if you're going to go more advanced on the thing, and for larger legacy systems, yun yung tendency. You need to have more. So, yun. Okay. Any more questions? Gusto na umuwi? If there are no more questions, thank you very much, and I hope marami kayo natutunan dito. I'll be uploading this on GitHub. Tingnan natin kung isip ko nga kung paano to i-upload ko yung original, tapos i-upload ko rin yung improved. And then figure out how it went there from here to there. Yeah. Thank you very much. And yeah, so ano bang announcement natin? September 27. Ano natin?
So abangan nyo sa PHINUG group and or sa
Hindi pa
Clinkit Solutions page for the next session. So again, expect the same thing, 2 talks, 2 speakers, free food, and then great people to interact with.
So the next one is tentatively September 27. And then baka magkaroon tayo ng mas wider. I'm still fixing it. Mas day long na yung .NET Con sa sometime October.
Sa Boracay.
September, yung 2 women programmers.
Ano yung topic for September?
Wala pa.
And if anyone is interested in giving a talk, lapitan nyo.
Yeah.
Either one of us, or 3 of us. So John, Nika, and myself, Joseph. So like any topic na you want to share, any technology that's somehow still relatable to either .NET or depends on, sometimes we do a combination of 2 topics na related to each other, sometimes hindi din naman. So let us know.
Pwede ba mag-request ng topic?
Yeah. Then,
Of course, yes.
kung may ano kayo na, basta isa ka doon sa pwede mag-talk din. Para mamaya.
Ano ba request mo?
About containers.
DevOps yan.
Oh my God. So again, Clinkit Solutions. So sa Facebook, makikita nyo kung yun yung page pag naka-upload yung live stream natin ngayon. So, shoot us a message.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for attending.
Puntahan naman namin yun.